Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Caligoan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time I was made to watch Holy Smoke.
Yeah, it's the movie that made me realize that I'm supposed to think that Harvey Keitel is sexy.
Or you were in 1999?
Yeah, I didn't. I don't. But we'll talk about that. So anyway, yeah, it's 1999 Jane Campion joint. And honestly, it's Jane Campion. So you know it's going to be kind of weird.
Yeah.
I feel like generally her movies are good, but weird. And this is no exception. It's Kate Winslet and Harvey Keitel. She's been removed from what we're told is a cult in India and brought back to Australia to be deprogrammed. And he is the deprogrammer brought in from the US. And I don't think he's very good at his job because his method of deprogramming seems to be just kind of being a jerk. And then they have sex. And then he falls in love with her and is attacked by emus in the desert.
That's not standard practice.
I don't know. Hard to tell. We only have this one to go by, really. So, yeah. So I should say up front, this was way weirder than I remembered it being.
Yeah.
So
was it?
Yeah. I saw this. So there was a period, if you can believe it, before I met my better half, my co-host, when I didn't have a very big social life, and I had a weird job where I worked nights and weekends, and my days off were Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so my version of a big weekend was I would go to Blockbuster, because this was 1999 to 2003, and I would rent like 4 VHS tapes and watch them over the course of 2 days. And I would probably get a pizza and like have 2 bottles of beer over that weekend, and like maybe ice cream. Like this was my version of a blowout weekend. Nice. But I saw a lot of movies that I had not seen before, some old classics, and I saw some quirky little odd art house flicks from that period like this. And so that was the last time I saw it. And I, like I said, I did not remember it being quite this weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, just okay. Tell me your thoughts before we get into the nitty gritty of this, because I just want your unvarnished opinion here.
It's just weird. It's odd. I don't know. It's just It doesn't seem to have like it has a story, like it has, but it doesn't. Like I don't know why why did this story need to be told? I don't understand. Like I don't like I mean like there's like a hard fade to black and then fade back up to a year later, and like both of the characters have grown, but like we don't really see that growth,
and they yearn for each other still. And I'm kind of asking, but why?
Yeah, it's just I don't get it, but I feel like it's probably the kind of movie that needs more than one watching, like in close proximity to each other, not like 20 years apart.
Yes. No, clearly 20 years apart does not it does not improve with the 20-year interval. Well, first, this is not a deep point at all, but the pool of like Australian actors must be smaller than the American pool, because I recognized a couple faces in here that just delighted me from Muriel's Wedding. Kate Winslet's dopey brother in this movie is played by the actor who played Toni Collette's dopey brother in Muriel's Wedding. And Kate Winslet's horny, bitchy sister-in-law is played by the actors who played Toni Collette's horny, bitchy former friend in Muriel's Wedding. So small pool and everybody's typecast.
Yeah. Well, and probably like when you were making a movie in the 90s in Australia, there were, like you didn't have a lot of options. So yeah, it would probably
I would have thought there would be a whole lot more, but
I don't know. I don't know what the Australian film industry was like, but
I don't know.
I feel like everybody goes to America, so
maybe I don't know. Well, and then her other brother, whose chief trait is that he's gay,
yeah,
and wears like a mesh tank top
Right.
and dress pants, like that kind of outfit. He looks familiar too. I don't know where I know him from.
Yeah, he does. He does.
And then there's the other guy who I forget who he was. He looks like Fabio. He's not Fabio.
They call him Fabio.
Yeah, and he breaks his nose and then he's never seen again. I don't get it.
In the background a couple times.
Yeah. The parents also have a very Muriel's Wedding type relationship.
Yeah.
Which is not good for them.
Yeah, the dad. I don't know. Do you know the clip of the? It's a guy. I think pretty sure it's Australian. It's a guy. He's being arrested, and he's like some kind of a politician, and he's like, what am I being arrested for? Having a meal, a succulent Chinese meal. And he's like being arrested.
Is that from Muriel's Wedding?
No.
I'm saying it's another. Okay.
No, I'm saying that's like a real thing that had some kind of Australian politician.
It's a real thing. Oh, geez. Okay.
A succulent Chinese meal.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
And the dad reminded me of that guy who's being arrested for having a succulent Chinese meal.
Yeah. I gotta say, based on these two movies, I wouldn't want to marry an Australian man because they're not setting.
Please no.
Yeah, no. Australian film industry, you are making your men look like dicks.
Yeah,
do better. Do better. Eric Bana is riding the scale, but not by much. He's only one man. But yeah, so there's some familiar faces in here if you have watched Australian 90s films, which of course everybody has, really, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, you should watch Muriel's Wedding. It's quite strange and good.
Also, I bet more than one of these guys was in like a Mad Max movie.
Yeah. And I don't think any of them were in Strictly Ballroom, but it's entirely possible.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah. Anyway, so casting aside, so this movie is strange. So first of all, from the jump, I'm not really on board with the idea that this was actually a cult that she needs to be deprogrammed from.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wonder, is it that's the thing with a movie like this that is clearly it's trying to say something like, not unlike noted masterpiece Mandy, which is a commentary on the Satanic Panic. Like, are they trying to say something like was there a sort of natural overreaction to non-Christian religions and these, because where you are in Australia, like to get any culture besides your own, you have to go elsewhere, and you're like a long plane flight from India or any of the Asian countries or anything like that. But like you go there and you're exposed to that culture. So is it like a cultural thing of like, oh, all these young Australian girls go off to India and they never come back because they join with a guru or whatever? Yeah.
Well, and this is something that I have no context for because I didn't have Ruth, Kate Winslet in the movie is supposed to be 18. I didn't go to another state by myself when I was 18, much less another country. And so the idea of like, you're just off with your best friend away from any parental influence and you can just decide, I'm just going to stay in this other country. Like what? I don't know how one makes the decision to do that.
Yeah.
18-year-olds not known for making great decisions.
True.
But it seems like she's just staying and like giving everybody mango lassies. Like it didn't seem, I mean, like, no, this is probably not a good career move. If she was going to go to law school back home, this is not going to help her with that. But like, I don't know. I didn't see anything about mistreatment or there was nothing like, oh, he's a guru who abuses all of his disciples or,
right.
So
that's why I wonder if it was almost like a shorthand. That was the point I was trying
Australia,
to make. Yeah,
you would know.
That was the point I was trying to make earlier, that it's just like a shorthand. Just like if you put somebody in a heavy metal t-shirt and it's the 80s, you're supposed to read that character as, oh, he's probably a devil worshiper.
Yeah.
If it was just that kind of thing, like they didn't feel that they needed to be that more explicit because the audience that they were targeting or the thing that they were referencing is like, well, of course, it's a well-known trope.
Possibly. That is what comes of watching a movie 20 plus years after the fact. Her mom also her mother goes to India to get her, and they've come up with this plan where they're going to tell Ruth that her father is dying and come back home, and then they're going to deprogram her, which is just like way to shoot yourself in the foot before you've even started the race.
Start with dishonesty right off. It's always good. That's the best way to start.
But her mom is this. You just want to give her a hug and be like, "Oh, honey, it's fine." Like, you imagine she has a whole lot of hand sanitizer with her and is taking a lot of airborne for the plane. And
well, like if either of those things had been a thing in 1999.
That's what I mean. Like, didn't do any research on what the customs in India are like, or didn't bother to get the local currency for the kids who run alongside the cab begging, or, and just is like icked out by all of it, and is prone to see the worst in this situation.
Well, and she's like weirdly confident going into it that she's going to be able to easily handle it, but as soon as she's there, it's clear that her confidence was totally misplaced.
No. Yeah.
Like, no, she was never going to be able to handle it.
Yeah. And so, like, why did they choose her? I don't. And it seems like the brother, the not dumb brother, has a better relationship with Ruth anyway, and seems more confident in all areas of life. So, but anyway, regardless.
Maybe they were afraid that they would also lose him too.
We've already lost him to the one.
Right.
To that lifestyle. Okay. Where did my accent go? I don't know what that was. That started off okay, and then it just...
Did it?
I mean,
it started off.
We grade on a curve when it comes to my accents, but yeah. So I don't buy into the fact that this is such a terrible cult that she needs to be saved from, especially when one of Harvey Keitel, his PJ, Philip J. Waters, something like that, but and we're just going to call him Harvey Keitel. One of Harvey Keitel's steps in the deprogramming process is to show the individual a film strip that is basically like, and here's the people who died by suicide in Jonestown. Most of it wasn't actually suicide, by the way, but anyway. Here's the people who died by suicide in Heaven's Gate. Here's the people who died in a fire at Waco, and this is apparently eye-opening to her. And I'm like, okay, but he's not asking you to commit suicide. This is, I mean, of course, no one asks you to commit suicide until they do, and then it's too late. Yeah. But I was like, and this seems to do something to her, because after that, she's like, the love is gone. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I'm split wide open, and this really shakes her, but I don't really see why.
Yeah, I don't either. But also, I think, again, if I'm looking for some sort of artsy-fartsy subtext, the fact that she doesn't really seem that like convinced that she's like brainwashed into a cult then that's the overreaction of the family, and also potentially explains his 198 number of Keitel's number that he's converted with only a 3% recidivism rate. Like that he's a charlatan. He's not actually out there converting people that are deep into cults. He's just out there like people who, again, like went away for a summer and came back with a couple new ideas, and their families, they're like puritanical families, overreacted. And he comes in and, so like when I'm looking for like, is there a deeper thing here? Like, it's that, like you were saying, he's not actually good at his job. He never was. He hasn't been out there doing real hard psychology and converting people like that are real deep in.
He's sort of like the Music Man of deprogrammers. He just uses the think system and makes people fall in love with them, and then boom, they're cured. Speaking of, so after this film strip, they go back and they go back to their little, they call it the hut. It's just like a trailer out in the middle of the desert somewhere, and it's just the two of them. Which, first of all, this is a bad idea.
Well, he's supposed to have an assistant with him.
Even then. 2 men and an 18-year-old girl, that's still a bad idea. Like, none of this is a good idea. And I am not a person who sees like sexual predators around every corner, but this is not a good idea. But anyway, he wakes up from a nap and she's out in the courtyard burning her sari, and she's naked. And she has her breakdown about, I don't feel anything, blah, 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 blah. And then she comes onto him and he says no. And then she pees on herself, and then he is like, okay, fine.
He says, don't mind if I do.
Yeah. What?
But also, like, throughout the course of the following events, we are shown somewhat explicitly that he is a weirdo, like a sexual weirdo, which is like
yes.
nothing. Hey, whatever you like, I'm the kind of person who will call myself a nerd and and call myself a dork and all these sorts of things. So when I say sexual weirdo, it is with like the utmost love. But like, if you're a sexual weirdo, you are, you're a sexual weirdo, and the sort of stuff that is implied that they get up to, like, yes, clearly he is a sexual weirdo, and the peeing seems to turn him on.
I don't. But how is the well? And it's a creepy. I don't know. I am too far removed from my women's studies classes to really analyze this movie properly, because there's a whole something sexism, feminism, something patriarchy going on, and I can't parse it. But like the fact that yes, she pees on herself, which feels a little bit degrading, and then he's into it, and then later they have this thing where she puts him in a dress and tries to abuse him, and then he tells her to be kind, and it's like an emotionally abusive
well, to be clear, she doesn't try to like degrade him and abuse him. She apparently does, in whatever that means. We aren't sure. I think some sort of like proto 1999 pegging is potentially implied, with him assuming the female role, losing his power as the big strong man. But the point is
a little subtle for I didn't take
to
that,
me. To get down to brass tacks, the thing that he seems to love about her is that he doesn't have to pretend to be the big strong man around her, that she's figured him out, that she's stronger than him, stronger willed than him, and that she is willing to, because of that, is willing to do perverted things to him that he wants done to him, but is too. It's like, you wouldn't ask your wife to do this kind of thing. It's the reason you go to a dominatrix or something. That she's on that level. It's like a Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, in so much as like he has a repressed sort of, and she fulfills that, and that's what he falls in love. That's what drives him crazy, is that he's finally met a woman who is seemingly as perverted as he is, but it's like every lock has a key kind of thing. Like, he wants to be a sub and she wants to be a dom, and like it lines up for them.
That part completely went over my head, because they have him in the dress and it fades to black, and then
he wakes up face down, ass up.
I mean,
with his hair all mussed, and he says, "You did things to me last night." Or she says, "I did things to you," and he said, "I liked those things." Like, clearly implying that she was second guessing things that she had done to him.
I just assumed it was a lot of sex. I don't.
No, I think that is not.
All right. Well,
they did not just have straight up face to face missionary sex.
Yeah. Well,
that is not not the fact that he is face down, ass up in a dress with lipstick on when he wakes up from a night of rough and rowdy pleasure.
I mean,
kind of just tells you or implies all you need to know.
Wake up ass up sometimes, and that doesn't mean anything about what happened.
But if your husband woke up with lipstick on and a dress,
but the lipstick and the dress happened before. Okay, I don't know.
Yes, it's a part of the emasculation process.
Okay, well, okay. What does that say about either of us, that you clearly saw that and I clearly did not? I don't know.
I just see his character as this sort of fully in the guys who end up being subs. And the women who end up being subs are the people who in their everyday life need to be in constant control. And that's a blanket statement. That's not automatically true of every sub.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right. And his literal job is to talk people, to be the strong person that's talking people back from the precipice. He has all this responsibility, and it seems that all he wants sexually is someone to tell him what to do. Like, he starts to fall for her when she tells him he's basically not kissing her right. And she explains to him how to kiss her on the mouth and other places. And he complies. He listens like a good boy and is rewarded with being dressed up like a woman. Like, to me, it just all fits together, like.
Well, and you know what? There is something to, if he professes to be good at his job, but if he's not actually, and he knows he's a fraud, then the sub role is probably very appealing because then he can put down the facade and stop pretending. That's kind of like the imposter syndrome's relief valve. Like, okay, down here, no one's going to find me out.
Yeah, and he doesn't go like insane, over the top, and fall in love with her until after the dress and the night of debauchery.
Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, this is like day 4 that they've met. 4 days, this is, and she's trying to run away and he's trying to get her to stop, and somehow he accidentally punches her, and I think they make it out like it actually is an accident, but I don't.
He kind of, I mean, know. It's they're kind of going back and forth. Like, it would be easier to do that. Like, you could have done it with an elbow or something. Of them like kind of struggling and then
knocks her out, which is who knows.
So like I think we're getting like we're all over the place on this. Maybe we want to like stop and kind of I don't know if we're like, we have explained the way that we have approached this is as if the audience has also just finished watching this movie and has information. Like we were saying, Harvey Keitel, PJ, is recruited by her family to deprogram her. He takes her to this hut, like you said, and he has this system. The first day, he tries to earn her respect. The second day, he breaks her down by burning or by taking away the sari. He strings it up to a tree where she can't get it. And then the third day is supposed to be the breakthrough or whatever. And instead, on the third day, they end up going to a club and shenanigans ensue after they've already had sex for the first time on the second day.
Yes.
When she burns the sari. So there's this whole progression. And in the meantime, the family is in and out, and
they're not helpful.
Sister-in-law is showing up, and
she's what is, I don't even know.
I think I think the sister-in-law represents a woman who sees him as the projection of him. So the sister-in-law is the easy mark that sees, because Ruth is always on him about his dyed hair. Because he's clearly an older man who's still trying to look young. The way he dresses, cowboy boots, the jeans that he wears, the black t-shirts. The sister-in-law accepts all that on face value and is fooled by it. She takes it all. He's projecting strength with his outward appearance, and she accepts it as strength. And she's the easy one that you can imagine he's gotten plenty of times before. The woman who falls for his charade. Ruth is the one who doesn't. She calls him out on the dyed hair and the clothes. She sees right through everything that he's offering her. Like, he's wearing this, and she even says it. Is that a uniform a normal person wears or something? Like, she sees through all that, and I think that's why he falls for her so hard, because she's the first person to see through all this shit that he puts in everybody else's way. And women like the sister-in-law, they just buy it and, give themselves over to him, to his, his purposeful appeal. Like, he's this bad boy sort of, he's always slicking his hair back, and he's, and it is dyed sort of a brownish black. And the sister-in-law is just, she's falling for it hook, line, and sinker. And Ruth is not. From the very get-go, Ruth has him made. With the clothes and the dyed hair, and that he cares a lot about his appearance, but doesn't want you to think that he does, because he dyes his hair, and his mustache is immaculately trimmed, and all that sort of stuff. Like, as someone who has a lot of facial hair, like, keeping over the course of 4 days, he doesn't get stubble, his mustache stays neat. Like, he's grooming himself a high amount during that time. And I think that's those two characters. There's like the sexed up sister-in-law who he's probably had 100 times before, who's falling for his shit, and Ruth, who doesn't. And those two characters, I think, are placed in the movie to be opposites of each other.
Do you think, you say he's had characters like the sister-in-law 100 times before? Do you think his patients, subjects, clients, whatever you want to call them, or just incidentally on the side, or both?
I probably knowing the character that we see develop for him, probably both. But it probably is often a secondary character like that who is adjacent to his actual target, because you have to assume sometimes his target is men and things like that. that sort of he can take in with his cool persona.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, probably patients, even though he says it's never happened with a patient before.
I feel like though he was like, oh no, well, yes, it has. Like he puts on a front for like half a second.
He says that's never happened before. Well, I mean, it has, but never with a patient. I think that's his masculine, like, because there's another part of me that wants to think like maybe he's actually never had sex before, because he says that's never happened before. But I mean, not with a patient, like almost like he's catching himself, like he was actually in a moment making an admission of like, I'm so phony.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a phony playboy that's the first time I've actually ever had sex. Like it's all just been BJs and handies and all the stuff before. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but like as I start to unravel his character and that moment as you're bringing it up, because it isn't that he goes back on it's never been a patient. It's that he wants to clarify after making it sound like maybe he's never had sex before. He wants to clarify. Oh, no, I mean, that's happened, of course. I just mean never with a patient.
Well, you know what? So he was telling the story before about his ex-wife, yada, yada. She wanted an open marriage, blah, blah, blah. And then something, they go to an ashram, blah, blah, blah. And like conveniently, he has the story about an Indian guru who's kind of a dick and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I thought he's making this up on the fly, or he has this in his pocket for like a story.
And I would wonder if any of it is true. Is the ex-wife true? Is the open marriage with the ex-wife even true?
No, that's what I mean. Like at first I'm thinking like, no, clearly he has, because he talked about the ex-wife and how he slept around. And then I'm thinking, no, that's all fake.
I think there is a reading of his character that you can support. That is, everything he says is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like he clearly is a cult deprogrammer because he has a reputation for doing that, and he has a partner or a associate,
supposedly,
who who seems to understand and tells him that like what he's doing is not is
oh,
is
you
wrong.
mean Pam Grier? Okay, I thought you meant the other one who never shows up.
Well, no, that was a local. I took that to mean that was supposed to be a local guy who was going to assist. And then got pulled away by a family death, which is what facilitated them having to do it alone for in the hut. Otherwise, he clearly has a procedure, and that procedure is clearly to never be alone with a subject. And there's even a moment where they're like, after he finds out, and he's like, "This is a 2-man job. I can't."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Well, are you going to do it?"
Mm-hmm.
And there's clearly a moment where he's like, and then he obviously does it.
Yeah.
He obviously goes forward with it. And she even says, like you can't, you're alone with this girl. You can't, you're potentially harming her worse. And he says, I know that. Don't you think I know that? So yeah, like there is another part of me that wants to be like, this is the first time this has ever happened, because he understands that this is a 2-person job. This is a delicate psychological procedure, and that he actually isn't a charlatan and just lying about everything, and that he actually was good at his job, but also had his own personal stuff. And the moment that the seatbelt came off is the moment that he slammed headfirst into a tree.
Maybe. Well, it's also possible for him to not have slept with patients and still be bad at his job.
Oh yeah, totally.
I don't know. He lost control real quick. I mean, like,
oh yeah,
this is not the first person to resist being, quote, deprogrammed from a cult. Like,
sure,
guarantee. We're talking, this is probably a lot of 18, 19-year-old girls.
Potentially.
That is a demographic that fights back real hard.
Yeah, and which again is the reason to have someone with him and all these other things. Yeah.
Well, and have a woman there too. And
I also think this is because, in the end, he says he's writing his second book, and where the main character meets their archangel or whatever. And, like that's what happens. He meets his, he meets his match in her. And maybe that's happened before. Maybe it hasn't, but he's always had someone there to defuse the situation and never let it get as far as it got. It's the sort of thing of like, what's the saying? Like, real good is what you do when someone's not watching or whatever, like real morality, real character, whatever it is. that kind of thing. Like that's his real character because no one's watching. And usually, I guess the previous 189 times he's had someone else watching.
Maybe.
So I don't know. It's all speculation because she's purposely not giving you this information. So you're probably encouraged to do exactly what we're doing right now.
Well, glad that other people can join in on us doing exactly what we're. I'm glad that someone made this
movie in 1999 so that we could talk about it 14 years later. Finally fulfilling the purpose of the movie.
14?
24.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jeez, wow.
Now we know where our son gets his bad skills from.
Oh, God, don't even. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You mentioned at some point his Harvey Keitel's just sort of cool factor. While I cannot get on board with him being a sex symbol, I can get on board with him being just a cool and attractive that way.
Oh yeah.
I think it was it in Kissing Jessica Stein where they name check Harvey Keitel as like ugly sexy? Something like that. Yeah. Like, yeah. He's got some composure and some gravitas, panache, savoir faire, all those vaguely French words that when put together mean like not hot conventionally, but I can see it.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly purposeful casting. I think, and Campion had worked with him previously on at least The Piano.
Yes,
right? I don't know. I don't know many of her movies. I know The Piano.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
That one, The Rabbit, the dog, the movie with Cumberbatch,
The Power of the Dog.
Power of the Dog. I was seeing Rabbit Proof Fence, but that's a whole different movie.
That is also a very good movie, and that we might talk about. And it's also heartbreaking, but very good.
Yeah. So, it's incredibly purposeful casting, and you know he is still at this time in 1999 and beyond for a few years after. Still trading on the coolness of the Wolf character from Pulp Fiction when he comes in the tuxedo and just fixes everything.
I saw that once years ago and I don't remember anything about it, but I know he's got like he was in Bad Lieutenant and he was in something else.
And of course Reservoir Dogs,
yeah, he's got a lot of it. Yeah, he just has. After a while, typecasting happens for a reason because you can do that thing really well.
Especially because it's in Pulp Fiction, I'm almost sure he has a little mustache. It may be even more like pencil thin in Pulp Fiction, but like that sort of cool sort of feel, and even although she's not a main character, Pam Grier is in this and having that, cool factor that Quentin Tarantino would rely on a couple times in his movies, he's that kind of guy where you look at him and you go like, no, and then he does something, he does a role or he says a thing or he has a posture and you're like, well, maybe.
It's similar to before we watched the 70s Dracula movie for the Spooktacular last year. I was like, Frank Langella? Really? What? And then I saw it and I was like, I get it. I see it.
I get it.
I would not partake, but I see it. I get it. Yeah, similar here. I also would not. I would not submit to a man who is 35 years older than me. Like that's just kind of gross.
And she does that more than a couple times in her career. Campion, the wacky age thing, and maybe she's doing that to bring attention to it. Although in this case, while he is abusing his trusted role, he ultimately is the one that gets it flipped on him. So in that sense, he is preying on these potentially his character has been preying on these young girls who don't know any better, and he can manipulate them with his sort of like parlor tricks. If you think about a magician that is not good at his trade but like can do a good card trick or whatever, and like manipulating rubes.
He's like, now look at all the bodies in Jonestown and the Kool-Aid and the fire and the la 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 la. Like,
and then you wonder how much was she, number one, like you say, was Ruth ever programmed? Number two, was she ever unprogrammed? Was everything that she did, was much of it just a show for him? Like we know there are certain things that seemingly were explicitly a show for him, like her sexy lady dance in the bar.
Yeah.
With another, she does a sexy dance with another lady.
Yeah, because she's looking at him most of the time when she does it.
Which is very clearly, and then that's more of like because, like 1999's version of sexual perversion is very different than 2023's version. But
Two girls,
this is the kind of thing that had come up in like Basic Instinct and other movies before.
Not long after Wild Things.
Right.
Or was it before? I don't remember.
It might be.
Within a couple years.
I was old enough to watch Wild Things in the theater, so it had to have been at least post 97 for me to be 18. But it was that sort of thing of like a man watching two girls kiss and sort of semi fondle each other was still taboo, and sexy. And something that, and by the way, something that women did to entice men, because I don't know if you've seen the hit Matt Dillon film, Wild Things, but they are doing that to get over on him. So
I have to admit, I have seen that. Yes, I do.
Men in the 90s were easily manipulated by two women kissing.
Probably, maybe that's why I didn't get into more frat parties. I wasn't kissing enough girls.
You were in prime kissing girls times.
I was, but
all you had to do to be the king shit of the school when it came to sexiness.
I think even that would not have helped me. I don't
know. They would have been.
I was plump and I had bad skin and glasses and I was a big old dork.
They would have done the Harvey Keitel, like Marion, no, and then you kissed a girl, like, well, maybe
she took off her glasses and now there's no paint on her overalls. Right, what? Yeah,
and she kissed a girl.
Yeah.
More importantly,
right? Taste of her cherry chapstick. Something. I had something else that I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Ruth's family sucks.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like if she was programmed, she was primed for it just by her family situation, because her dad clearly sucks. At the end, there's a couple throwaway lines about he's having an affair with the secretary.
Yeah, she calls him
and
out
had a baby with her. And then at the end, it says, he finally left to be with the secretary. Yeah. And her mom moves with her to India, different city.
Yeah.
But, probably cleaner.
Yeah.
And her,
which I think is more evidence that she was not really indoctrinated into a cult. She just fell in love with India and the people and everything.
Right. And and she's working for like an animal shelter or something. So the idea of doing good, her dumb brother sucks. Her sister-in-law sucks. Her gay brother is fine, but not really enough to make up for everybody else.
Yeah. And probably also not that fine.
Yeah. Her mom is like I said, similar to the parents in Muriel's Wedding. Like, her mom is fine, but a limp noodle of a person.
Yeah.
And the mom in Muriel's Wedding was that way too.
Well, and the family is like the biggest problem with this movie because they're not the right tone. They are the wacky
they're
family.
comic relief.
Right. That's what they are the wacky family from, Big Fat Greek Wedding or Muriel's Wedding or like whatever. In a movie that, like, when they're in the hut, it's this sexy, raunchy, psychological back and forth of these, two people struggling over her quote unquote soul. And then anytime the family's involved, it's like Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah.
Like I really expect like almost like a Beverly Hillbillies-esque like type of thing, to go on. Like
when he's chasing her through the desert, you expected the Benny Hill theme song.
Yeah, like or like, let's chase her around a cement pond, just some dumbass, and I'm sure like some of the stuff they were doing was like dumb Australian tropey stuff, but it's very weird, and maybe it is like none of it's funny enough to be comic relief, but I think it's intended to be comic relief. Like, it's, you know what it is? It's, Heed. It's the dad from So I Married an Axe Murderer. It's like, it's all just like an orange on a toothpick.
Go cry yourself to sleep on your weed pillow.
Yeah. Like Sputnik, he's round but pointy in places.
I'm sure I've told you this, but I'm going to tell the listeners. Heed, the actor, went to my university and lived in my freshman dorm.
Yeah, the kid who played the little brother with the big head on So I Married an Axe Murderer.
And I had not seen that movie, but everybody else had. And whenever they, whenever they saw him, they would just go, "Hid! Pants! No!" And
Pants, no.
he, as you might guess, just loved it.
Oh, yeah. He
was like,
loved it.
Yes.
He definitely didn't regret that role.
No,
definitely.
no. He had also been in The Mighty Ducks, but nobody cared. There's not as many lines from that.
Hey, Gertie, could you scratch your collar, rattle your collar right into the mic next time?
Yeah. It's Cameo, our cat Gertrude. Yep. Oh, she's going to eat the microphone instead.
Nice. Okay. She is responsible for all these bite marks on the windscreens on the mic.
All right, come here, girl.
But yeah, the family. It is a weird tonal shift. Like you could do this movie with, and the mom's whole trip to India in the beginning is this like pseudo comic relief. Like every time the family was on screen, I was like, I think I'm supposed to be laughing at this, but like, and some of it's just like the dumbest. Like pratfalls and stuff. Like there's a point where the mom is talking to PJ, Harvey Keitel, and they're all cutting up in the background because I guess like soccer or rugby or something is on, and the dumb brother his chair falls over backwards and a whole tub of popcorn spills all over him. It's just like dumbest, lowest common, and maybe that's what it's supposed to be.
Or my favorite one, the dumb brother and slutty sister-in-law are playing with their kids. They're like climbing up onto the bed of a truck and jumping off into their arms. And PJ comes out and sister-in-law turns and completely ignores the kid who jumps off
and just splats
on the ground.
I
shouldn't laugh, but it's just
that's the stupid. One like laugh out loud moment. That and the moment where I misheard the guy say that he eats cake batter. And like that guy is comic relief. Like he's got that frizzy curly hair,
like Chia Pet.
And it's just like it's all very sort of. He's just got that look. They all look like they were cast by the Coen brothers. They all are like, or Baz Luhrmann. Yeah, keep it Australia. It's all like visually interesting. Everybody in the family has some like visually interesting thing, even if it's just the gay brother with his mesh shirt and his outrageous cowboy hat.
I think I saw a nipple ring, which in 1999 was like,
that
woo!
Yeah, you knew then.
Yeah.
I'm like, on the one hand, as I re-examine it, I do wonder if they are supposed to be a commentary on like the outrageous, over-the-top sitcom family, and they're supposed to contrast everything that's happening at the hut. But, like, I don't know whether or not at this point in her career to give her that much credit for this, like, biting social commentary not. I don't know.
I would have to... I would love an annotated version of this. Like, give me the Australian filter on this and tell me what is referring to what. You kind of do wonder, how did Kate Winslet come out of this family? Because although at one point her mom refers to her as, "Oh, she's our golden girl," and I'm like, yes, I can see why you would say that, because she's normal and none of you is.
She really does not belong in this, and she is a normal person in a world of cartoon characters. Like even her friends, who come over briefly at one point.
And just...
she really is like a normal person.
I don't know. We don't have a teenage girl, but I got to tell you, that shriek is spot on for teenagers.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But it's just... And maybe it is all sort of meant to, like, there's sometimes like there's movies like Natural Born Killers or something where when they show one of the characters' families, they literally pull back and it's like a sitcom, and they have an audience who's laughing when certain characters come on the screen, and Oliver Stone is just like pounding you over the head with like, do you get it? You get this part? This is the part. Look, I'm making fun of how stupid this stuff is. Look at it, and maybe Jane is just giving you more credit as a writer and director, that you will get the more nuanced commentary, or maybe it's just she just wanted some wacky characters in there for comic. Or maybe it's just a very like I don't know her national origin, but maybe it's just a very Australian thing. Because
I think she is Australian or maybe from New Zealand.
Because the family is kind of wacky in other movies. That we have seen in Australia, either for this podcast or not in this podcast. It's hard to tell, but
yeah, I don't know. Well, Australian listeners, let us know. What are we missing? We're dumb Americans. Tell us the stuff that we're not getting. One last thing you mentioned just in passing. PJ says he's concerned for Ruth's soul.
Yeah,
that seems way overboard. I don't think her soul's in danger. She's not. This is not a satanic panic thing.
Well, I mean, isn't it? Though?
If you come into it with a very specifically Christian worldview, maybe,
which her parents clearly have, because
it's true. They did say they are saying the Lord's Prayer at one point, but that's not explicit enough. I don't know.
But again, if you think about when it was made and what it is referencing, and again, is it maybe a deeper cultural thing that would be an automatic thing? I don't
think Australia is nearly as heavily Christian.
I don't know. But I'm saying, like, right now in America, if you made a character on Law and Order and he was a loudmouth and you put him in a red hat, everybody would get what you're saying. 25 years from now, would that still read to someone in, New Zealand who's watching it? Would they be like, oh, that guy's clearly supposed to be referencing this moment of political, discourse or whatever in this foreign country?
Maybe
some things are universal. If you have your German character goose stepping, you know what that means no matter where you are in the world. But like if you have a Japanese character who's got blonde hair, like that is a huge significant thing in Japan culturally. In America, we're just like, I don't know, whatever,
just bleached it.
I guess you just wanted blonde hair. So it's stuff like that. I wonder, is there not something more? But I do think, like, given what they're that family would believe, I think her soul is on the line. Because if she leaves, if she embraces this cult, then she's, and it's a non-Christian cult. Like, you almost wonder, would they be even like a Branch Davidian kind of thing? Would they maybe have even been okay with that? Like, oh, I just got in with this weird bunch of Christians. Oh, okay, fine, it's no problem.
Yeah. Oh, they say that's fine.
They're stockpiling weapons. That's okay.
That's
cool.
Totally, but they're Christian.
You need to protect yourself, right?
They're Christian weapons.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Maybe I
I don't know. I really, I don't have a hard and fast take on it one way or the other, but is it probably just hyperbole that he uses as part of his process? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'd chalk it up to that, because I think in those first couple of interactions they have, he's on script. Yeah. She hasn't started to divert him yet. Like probably for that first whole day, things are going as planned. Yeah. At least as far as he knows. And he's probably just on script.
Yeah. Well, I think we have thoroughly delved into the weirdness of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to.
I don't know. Should people watch this? If you like naked Kate Winslet, yes.
Yeah. I mean, 1999 Kate Winslet is untouchable.
Well, and she was, I forgot how young she was at this point. She was 24 in this. And she had a period here where she did a number of just like small indie things. Like it was after Titanic, although maybe these were made before, I don't know. Yeah. But she had this, and then another one that we might watch where also she's at an ashram. Okay. I don't know what's up with that, but she did a lot of interesting things in like the late 90s, early 2000s, including Heavenly Creatures, which I cannot find for us to watch, but I definitely want to, because that's great.
But yeah, for that, and I'm not saying that's a skeevy reason to watch
it feels
a movie.
Gross to say that now that I said it, but
but
there's also naked Harvey Keitel. I mean, which apparently is
it's not piano naked. Yeah, it's not the piano naked.
It's not full frontal.
It's not full dong. There's an implication of a dong.
Yes, I was actually looking. I was like, are we gonna sit? No, we're not. Okay.
Are we gonna see Harvey's Keitel? Again. But yeah, I mean, I will tell you this. Here's what I will honestly say about this movie. After having watched it, I did not care for it. Mm-hmm. But after having talked about it and sort of had to empty my thoughts onto the table, I feel like it is worth watching because it's just, if you listen to the things that I have said in this podcast, specifically, someone who didn't bring this movie and didn't care for this movie when we were watching it, I have sort of seen that there's more meat there to analyze, that it's not this just weird, half-cocked, poorly written, sort of odd little tale, that it really is trying to say something. It's trying to show these juxtapositions in the power struggle between an older man and a younger woman. It's trying to show this demasculation or emasculation of a powerful man who wants that. Like, the movie doesn't make any bones about like her doing that to him against his will. He wants that. He wants to wear the dress and have the lipstick on, like, and he goes outside in it without caring, like he wants all that stuff to happen to him. It's things that you feel like now that he's moved on with his life, she's the only person who's ever going to see that side of him, because his wife is much more straight laced.
Even though she's Pam Grier.
Even though she's Pam Grier. Like when you actually start to unpack it, and I think this often happens with literature or movies or even music, when you start to actually talk about it and you realize like, oh, that, weird, like putting a slide whistle into the middle of that song was intentional, and it actually was a commentary on this or whatever. So I would say watch it and then let it roll around in your brain for a while, because you're probably not gonna. You're just gonna be like, oh, she's peeing. That's weird. And then why does he want to kiss her after that? And why does he want to? Why is he letting her put lipstick on him? And
Yeah, I think I like I said earlier, I think I'm too far removed from a women's studies class to really appreciate the themes here. So I'd have to watch it a couple more times and to really get it. But
despite my first inklings, it is clearly a movie that has something to say.
It is a strange little film.
It is. It is right up my alley, and while I'm critiquing the family, like I would watch an entire movie that is just like the secondary cast from a Coen Brothers movie. And that family is essentially that. I just want the government do take a bite, don't you? And the, and the guy, not that mother scratcher, and he's walking down the highway with her head in one hand, and, it counted, there's something wrong with my semen. I want that. I want a whole movie of that, and that's what that whole family is. Yeah. It's all the extras from Raising Arizona.
Yes,
that raised a Kate Winslet. I kind
of want to hear more about the brother and their sister-in-law and their sex life, where she just imagines different celebrities, and she goes, oh Tom, oh Brad, and she doesn't even notice because he's that dumb. That would be a depressing movie, but I'd watch it.
Yes. So all right.
Well, folks, we would love to know what you think about this. If you're Australian and can fill us in on some of the cultural references that we're not getting, we would love that. Do you like Harvey Keitel and his butt and his unseen in this movie dong? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. You can reach us a couple different ways. You can send an email, or you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. Our handle's the same for all three. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. Facebook, Twitter, or at gmail.com. Also on Facebook and Twitter, we list links to the latest episodes. They come out every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, you'll find a new episode in your queue. And let's see, next week, Dave will be hosting, and it is his turn to bring a movie. And what are we watching next week, Dave?
Oh, I really hadn't thought about it. I thought it was going to be our first December episode, which would mean it was my first sort of Christmas themed pick.
No, we got one more.
It's technically not. So my whole plan was thrown off when I checked the calendar. So
it will be after Thanksgiving, so you could sneak it in. I
could have done a Christmas movie 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. We prefer Christmas to start December 1st. But.
Yes. So yes, in this household, Christmas will start December 1st.
Yes.
So I don't know, actually, now that I don't have my pick, my Christmas pick. I did not have a backup. So.
All right. Well, so it's a surprise. It's host's choice. Stay tuned. All right. Well, then we'll see you next time with Movie TBD. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io. Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowligowan.
And this is You Show Me Your... Hang on. Clear your throat.
I'm not. It's just my tongue is acting up. It feels like it's taking out my whole mouth.
Okay.
I was just fine.
It was weird. It just sounded like you had a frog. Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowligowan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. At this time, you give me a look like I messed it up.
That's just my face.
Okay. Hey, this is David Owen. And this is Marian Cowligowan.
All right. Try not to make me laugh this time.